truth.
Hi everyone, welcome back. We have a new guest here now, Nelson Abreu. He is instructor at IAC and Wagner, researcher and instructor at IAC. Thank you for joining us, Nelson.
Nice to be here.
And welcome back.
Thank you very much.
So the first question I wanted to start was with some of the practical applications of these transformative experiences. How can people use this in everyday life?
So perhaps Nelson, you can start.
Sure. You know, for a long time, I've had the privilege to be mentored by people like Wagner. You know, sometimes you read books and you think, I really wish I had a chance to meet this person. And I've had this privilege, you know, to meet people like Wagner and know him by first name.
I'm glad you know that.
No, it's really amazing to me. And just listening to you guys talk earlier, and just reminded me of that. It's really special. But one thing is we have been trying to communicate to people all over the world the value of an out-of-body experience, energy, and what we've found is that there's a niche group of people who are ready to take the red pill, like in the Matrix, you know, and just expand their horizons and all that. That's wonderful, and we're there for them as an organization. However, I also had another mentor that I didn't get to spend as much time with him, but it was Robert John from the Princeton Pear Laboratory, right? And Brenda Dunn, who I'm still very happy to be in touch with. And Bob, shortly after receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award from IAC, he passed away recently, but he left these kind of rallying cry for us, which was to take all these experiences and research that has been done and find a way to connect this work to people's everyday life. So your question really goes to that. You know, so how can we go to where people are? You know, meet them where they are. So maybe there are a lot of people right now, they don't think it's relevant to have an out-of-body experience or to learn about energy because they don't see the connection. So how can we help bridge that gap, make it more pragmatic in a sense? And then maybe after they see pragmatic uses, they will awaken an interest to go deeper. And then they can take advantage of things like consciousness development program of IAC and so on. But we notice a lot of people aren't quite at that moment in their life. So as far as practical applications are concerned, I think sometimes people forget the very basic, which is you get so caught up in trying to persuade people that this experience has a particular nature, you know, if it's real or not real. You forget this is actually a set of very exciting and enjoyable experiences. Like I really enjoy having
it's an exploration, yes.
out-of-body experiences. How much do people pay for a VR experience, right? This is free. It's in your mind. It's in your brain. It's maybe beyond your brain. But you see, it doesn't even matter. It's within your reach. So I think the first application is, frankly, free and amazing entertainment. It's just something enjoyable. And how many inventions came out of dreams? In other words, but that was not a real experience. It was just, who cares? There's an amazing new invention, scientific work, piece of artwork that came out of that experience. So how many good ideas for a scientific breakthrough could come out of an out-of-body experience? How many beautiful works of art, how many engineering marvels could happen? They have already happened in the past, but if you make it more accessible, then more of them will happen. So maybe instead of always trying to talk about the experience in terms of what is its ultimate nature, sometimes to certain groups of people, which I think is most people, it might be more productive for us to talk to them as how it can be useful and interesting for them in their everyday life, starting with the most basic thing.
Yeah. So when we talk about these basic things, if we go back to that pyramid, Maslow's, the basic needs, all this knowledge can help people in almost all those levels there. Because even there is a kind of a spiritual level, a need, more at the tip of that pyramid. But even at the level where they put very physical needs for food, protection, people do not understand that energy is a basic need that we have. Is the quality of our environment. So one of the things that we have been discussing a lot, not only us, but from other of our colleagues, is a kind of enlarged and deeper understanding of well-being. Well-being comes from some things outside. It's very difficult for a person to say he or she has well-being when a person is hungry. But even when people have everything in life, sometimes they don't have well-being enough, good enough. So what is missing there? So what is that we need in life? For instance, one big thing in well-being is having a purpose. When the person doesn't have a purpose, basically other things are irrelevant. Some people commit suicide because they don't have a purpose. Some people die younger or younger than they should, because they don't have a purpose. So I was telling one of my recent course about an experience I had with a person, dead now, but at the time he was among the oldest people in this planet. His name is Alexander Image. He's a person you can Google, very influential person. When we met him, he was 106 years old. He died being 112 years old. At the time he was the oldest man in this planet. And then after many discussions about ectoplasm, the paranormal, his experiences, so many different things. In fact, he donated part of his personal library to IAC. But then in one of the moments there in his apartment in New York, I asked him, look, what can you tell us about longevity? Because you are the real deal. You are not a very young doctor, talking about longevity. He said a lot of things that we know about exercising and diet and this and that. And then he said, no, look, I'm forgetting the most important thing. Always have a purpose in your life, otherwise you die. He said, how many of my friends, colleagues, and relatives, they died being younger than me because they just ran out of challenges, things to do. So when we think about consciousness, exploration, evolution, sometimes this enriches the person's life, gives a purpose. There is a different kind of well-being. We introduce energy, ethics. When you think that you can have such an important role in people's evolution, even with, of course, your channel, you do a very beautiful, big thing here, because this is what people need the most. Information with quality, with depth, because most of the things we see nowadays, they are so, not all, of course, would be unfair to say that, but so many things are so superficial. My goodness, that doesn't make any difference. We have so many different needs there in this. We have to update that pyramid.
That's right. But continuing on that vein of pragmatic applications. So I never imagined I would sit with managers in companies that are not at all interested to hear about, having OBEs in other planets or something. But what they are interested in is productivity, reducing sick days, reducing injuries, improving creativity and innovation, and improving the overall psychological safety of a workplace. Well, these are all things that can be aided through mindfulness practices, right? Through mindfulness practices that can include energy mindfulness, right? So energy practices. So I actually found myself where they were asking me, well, can you teach us something? So, okay. So I gave them a very brief taste of, the vibrational state related type techniques. And they were doing the techniques not to have some kind of spiritual breakthrough, but to deal with the stresses of the workplace, to have more resilience, to have more resistance in terms of fatigue, to make fewer mistakes, to get through the day more productively, and to have a little bit of thicker skin, para skin, right? In terms of dealing with problems with colleagues, customers, difficult pressures of deadlines and so on. And the fact that you could have less stress really means less inflammation, less pain, less sick days, or less proneness to certain illnesses, and just overall better well-being. Feel good when you come to work and feel good when you get home, and be more pleasant to other people. Other people will like you more too, your customers, your colleagues, your family. So these are basic applications that your traditional mindfulness techniques can help with, but even the kind of techniques that IAC teaches with energy. And in my line of work, I get paid to work with a different kind of energy, the kind that powers the houses and factories. And I work around thousands of volts, right? And it's true, one mistake could cause an outage for the whole Southern California, or it could be my last mistake in this physical body, right? So, or someone else's, which is in some ways worse, because then you live with the guilt of getting someone else hurt. So it's very important to have attention and to not get too wild up on the stress and the pressure. So when something doesn't go according to the plan, that's when you need it the most. A calm, collected mind. And I find myself, even just as an instinct, I start applying these energy techniques. I don't even have to think of it. It's just second nature to me now. And it helps me tremendously. But even in an office environment, when things are tense, people sometimes have told me, like, what's wrong with you? Like, you're the only person smiling here. And it's hard to stay mad when we're around you. And then we start to wonder, is there something wrong with us? I said, maybe. maybe we need to work on our culture here, on our environment. So, sometimes just you being you, or a slightly better version of you, because you're applying these techniques, can be infectious, can affect others, And it is a big part of communication. I think Wagner can speak to this, that communication is mostly nonverbal, and nonverbal doesn't just mean how you dress, how you move. It's about energy, and the energy experts. I'll let you tackle that one.
Yes, because many times we see people who are called charismatic, and we know that charisma comes from energy. Of course, with more energy is going to be more influential, not always positive. Of course, that's why we have always to combine that with the ethics.
Yes.
Because Hitler was a very charismatic leader, very influential, could communicate pretty well, but we know the results of that. So how can we have this power of presence, of being there really as a tool for evolution, and being very conscious of the responsibility for that. So as Nelson was saying, giving some examples of application of many of these ideas, energy, in a kind of a professional environment. But can you imagine, for instance, in schools, if kids could start the day relaxing, doing some simple form of mindfulness, and then absorbing energy, I think many of them would be able to pay more attention for longer, enjoying the thing, being more creative, absorbing more the information. And think about that in a hospital, one of the most stressful environments we can think of. Even think, for instance, about energy being applied to increase the sport performance of people. So any aspect of our life can be improved by using energy.
I was kind of surprised. The soccer player who scored the winning goal for the Portuguese national team to win the European Championship. It was it was into overtime. The star player was injured early in the game. It was 0-0. And nobody expected this guy who has just been underwhelming because he had such potential, but he had never really quite lived up to it. But they put him because he's very strong, and it was like a burst of energy at the end. And he just did this most magical goal, and people are like, wow. He really, for the first time, shone, as he should be. And when they were interviewing him, how do you feel, son? He said, I want to dedicate this achievement to my mental coach. I said, what? I did a double take. Like, what? So, you know, people are getting into this. The Miami Heat, when they were at their height, they were doing meditation classes, you know, so it's, people are learning this secret. And also, the research into learning is that when you have a better vagus nerve, the vagus nerve, this biggest nerve that we have that runs the length of our body, that has to do with fight or flight and has a lot to do with the level of inflammation in our body. If you have better vagus nerve tone, you are able to learn better. If there's more vagus nerve stimulation at the moment of learning, there's better retention and better neural plasticity, you know, the ability to change our previous ways of thinking and so on. And so what can affect vagus tone? I mean, there are technologies like pulses of light, of electricity, of ultrasound. There's all kinds of stuff. But these practices are doing it without any wires as well. So definitely learning, focus, you know, creativity, it's all there. And these are things that everyone wants. But I suspect, as the really part of what our mission in the next stage of our work is to normalize all these things, just like yoga. I mean, when you thought about yoga back in the day, what was it? You know, some probably Indian man, right? In a cloth and doing their thing, and no women, right? It was mostly men. And it was definitely not Western men either, right? It's just a very specific culture. Yeah. But nowadays, you know, you see women, some men as well, you know, wearing Lululemon or whatever, you know, and it's like a thing that you do. It's okay, jogging, yoga, you know, okay. And some people will say, oh, well, that's a watered down yoga and it's not what it used to be. And it's true. No question. But by normalizing it, at least now more people can learn about the original yoga. And I spoke to Dean Radin some time ago about this, you know, and having this discussion. And what he said was, that's true, you know, yeah, maybe yoga of today is some kind of kinesthetic alternative, right? But if you go to a yoga conference and you ask the question, how many of you have felt energy? How many of you have had an out-of-body experience? A lot of hands are going to raise, which means, yes, maybe we do need a little bit of watered-down version, not to the point of selling out, right? But just to make it as an entryway, you know? So again, it's this theme of meeting people where they are today to help them eventually get to where we feel they could really have a spiritual, ethical breakthrough. But you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, and if I may, you mentioned at the beginning technology. I would like just to bring something to the discussion here. Many times people think technology is only machines, devices, electronics. Technology is more than that. A technique, a way of doing something is technology. A material developed is technology. This is technology. A shoe, this is technology. So when we mention technology, people think only of the high-end, top technology, but how many things could we do in a different way? So when we think of applying a particular technique using energy, like Velo, moving energy, increasing the speed. By the way, Nancy put in, I think it was in YouTube, if you Google there, you know, Velo, Nancy Trevelato, there is in fact a kind of a course, a training for that, just to be, you know, accessible to your audience. But anyway, that is a form of technology. And I went to some of these big companies in Brazil when I was there to give lectures or workshops. And one of the things the leaders there many times brought to me was how some particular conditions or states were in fact contagious, infectious to people. Like laziness is infectious. If you have one or two, the whole thing is going to come down. Depression. Some of them brought this case. Look, a person comes here, you know, on a Monday after some problems on the weekend, depressed, the whole team goes down. anxiety, and so many other things. And then this guy was asking me, is there anything we can do to shield people, to avoid this kind of contamination? What can we do to improve? And what I did many times was trying to teach these people technology, starting the day absorbing energy, doing velo. You know that sometimes some companies, for instance in Japan, they start with a kind of physical exercise in group, everyone in the morning doing some movements, not being in a forced way, but I think a lot of companies could start with 10 minutes mindfulness with some energy work, and everything could be better. Perhaps it's not the solution for everything, of course, nothing is easy, but could be a big tool there.
Yeah, an insurance company calculated 5 minutes of mindfulness every day translates approximately to $2,000 per person per year in savings in terms of insurance costs. So
5 minutes.
Improved productivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Creativity, problem-solving skills.
But also in a bigger way, today's economy, especially earlier we were talking about AI and things like that. Well, a lot of the jobs are going to be automated. This can be a threat, it can be destabilizing. But on the other hand, it could be liberating, right? So it will free people up to do what people do best, right? Rapport, understanding people,
Create.
Right? Showing affection, showing empathy, creating new things, right? Innovation, and this is something that will make what we are talking about here even more relevant. Mastering energy now is a process of providing better customer support, dealing with difficult customers, so that you don't get burnt out. That's a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Could go a long, long way, and having that next breakthrough idea could come through a lucid dream, through an out-of-body experience, through a meditation, right? Through hypnagogic period between awake and asleep. So I think the companies understand this, and that's why they are buying sleep pods, nap pods.
Yeah.
They have massage therapists on the payroll, because they need these things not to burn out because they work so many hours, but also to be creative. It goes hand in hand. I think we'll see more and more of this.
Yeah. And a good example, at least in my case, because I do these one-on-one sessions, like we like to call them mentoring. Think of a kind of a specific coaching, but many people there come, and perhaps would be the largest group is of psychologists, clinical psychologists, who are exhausted, drained. It's not only by the energy per se, but being so much contaminated by so many sessions with so many people, so many problems. They don't know how to cleanse that condition. This has been the most common, if I think, in terms of demographics, profession, condition is this.
Wow.
Everyone dealing directly with the public, medical doctors, masseurs, as you said, they have a tendency to have this kind of energy assimilation. And many don't know how to get rid of that. After a while, the person is really contaminated, the information is wrong, is in dissonance with health, with the mental condition, with the emotional stability of the person. So some of these energy technique can help the person that way.
In a bigger sense also, earlier we were talking about how many crises we're facing, right? And in the world, and that we're not really missing money, technology. It's all there, it's available, right? And if it's not available, humans have enough ingenuity, they can make it happen, right? We can land people on the moon, we can do whatever we need to improve the world. But what Wagner was saying earlier, right, we have an ethical crisis. We have just sometimes lack of will, lack of imagination, right? And there is a phenomenon that's very interesting to me, that is what astronauts who go into outer space experience. They call it the overview effect. So they go into outer space and they're already very smart and educated, right? Planetary scientists, physicists, these are very smart cookies, right? And they're out there, men and women, looking down at the Earth. They already know all the science, that's pertinent, that's available today. But now it's a visceral understanding. It's different. They have a visceral understanding that the Earth is already floating through space. We are already in space. And that this Earth and the 7+ billion people living in it are protected by only a thin layer of the atmosphere and the magnetic field of the Earth, and how fragile life is, how there's no borders, and we're all one big family, bickering family, but we are one big family.
Yeah.
And they come back changed forever. Now they have a planetary identity. They are man, woman, Indian, American, whatever, but first and foremost a planetary member, right? Now there's a parallel with this. When I had my first out-of-body experiences, I got a similar shift. I thought, okay, I'm part of a cosmic family, first and foremost, before being male or any sort of ethnicity or skin color or whatever. I'm a consciousness first. And you don't go through life the same way. So I don't see any better application than that. Like, what the world needs is people who are more inspired. And just having these experiences undeniably makes people, for the most part, not in all cases, but in most cases, more ecological, more fraternal, more inspired to do something in the world. So to me, that's the ultimate application of what we do.
I was going to say that, changing to a different kind of subject, because we were mentioning here in our break that even our relation with pets, animals change when you can feel energy, when you can apply energy. Not all, but many pets are very sensitive. They sense their guardian, so we don't say owner. Yeah. And we can interact with them with energy. I have so many interesting experiences when I was testing, playing a little bit with energy, and the animals could sense. Sometimes a cat is distracted looking, through the window. You send energy, and the cat suddenly, what was that? And so many. Imagine how much more we could understand these beings. There, the campus of IAC in Portugal, we have a tree house. We call the Phyto Lab, Phyto from plants, Phyto Energy Lab. When the people go there, they stay in this little house, very comfortable, very cozy. They relax and try to commune, to connect with the energies of the plant, the aura field. When they succeed, so then when they are there and they can really make this auric energy couple with the tree, they sense the tree in a completely different way. They end up respecting more the green life, the trees and the plants. Many times people even feel the consciousness of the tree. So because when we see trees, usually we are a little bit blind to them. In fact, there is a kind of expression, it's called green blindness, because people don't see the trees. We think it's just something to make the place more beautiful, for decoration, or it's for wood. But when you can really feel there is a mind, simpler perhaps, but a kind of a mind there. And people say, look, I will never be able to think of trees again the same way. Because they sense the tree, the connections with everything else. And I think people need that kind of experience to be able to feel responsible. Look, I want to protect that being. It's not something that you just go out there and cut, prune, the branches, whatever you allow to die because you care. It is important for you. So think of this expansion of our energy perception to create a different kind of empathy towards the environment. Because really, there's a species disappearing, dying. People don't feel empathy for that. Oh, trees are dying, by the way. People don't think trees are dying by the millions. And we don't know. It's not just because trees are being burnt or being cut. By diseases, everything else. So what is going on? So with this heightened sense of awareness, perception, I think we can have a better well-being, as we were discussing before. There is no well-being for us without Mother Nature around of us. It's impossible.
And with that, you have a shift in consciousness from I am alone in a competitive world to I am a interdependent being, part of an ecology, right? And that shifts everything. Like, talk about applications. How does the economic system change when you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
How does, how does something that is an externality, how does that become now part of that system, right? How do we account for that? There's a Portuguese economist who's developing and promoting a new model that's basically treating the earth as a condominium. And I think that's pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
So you pay a condo fee to take advantage of the common amenities.
Yes.
It's not for free, right? It has to be maintained. If you go and destroy part of the condominium, you're accountable for it because you're affecting your fellow
Everyone
neighbors.
else.
So I think we will see with more imagination, which also stems from consciousness, from being, we'll develop better models to work, to be in a workplace, to collaborate, better models to exist in better harmony with our other beings on Earth as well, and other human beings in general as well.
Yeah, and I think this goes so deep because even some of the ethical principles, perhaps not so ethical, but anyway, it was like mottos for people, like something like this: go forth and multiply. Very important for a lot of people. Look, this was reasonable 5,000 years ago, but nowadays, I don't know if that is still applicable. So how many people would be able to go back to the foundations of their values and beliefs, to redo, rethink, reanalyze some things? I'm not saying that everything has to be thrown through the window, of course not. But some of these things, they have to be tweaked to a new time.
Software update.
Yes, exactly. Some little patches here and there. So when people say, oh, let us save the planet, I think that is something wrong because the planet, as an astronomical, astrophysical thing, doesn't need any saving. Our biosphere, this particular set of conditions, temperature, rain, and everything, this is what has to be saved. Because perhaps out of these conditions, our species is not viable here. That's the thing. Even in some of these events I go dealing with ecology, when they are open to more of this multidimensional point of view, and I was invited for a few of them. So I ask the people, look, even if you are very selfish, but if you believe in reincarnation, what kind of planet you are going to find yourself in next life when you reincarnate? What is the kind of planet you would prefer? Dystopian, like those sci-fi, gray, destroyed environment? Or Eden, paradise, because it's up to us. And I think it's a very good application of karma. If we think of karma as action, reaction, consequences for our actions or inactions. So if people believe in being born again, next life, okay, let us see what kind of earth we are going to inherit next time we come here. I think that's important.
Those are some good pointers and applications, everyday applications for transformative experiences. What kind of organization do that come to IAC, and like what are like some of the most like things they ask for at IAC?
As Nelson was saying, some of them come with very pragmatic things, like how to be healthier, more productive, how to have less sick days. So sometimes we have business people, in most of the cases we have other institutions similar to ours, who look for cooperation. We are good at some things, but not everything, of course, so other institutions, they have other strong traits. But what people want the most, I think nowadays, is, if I can put in simpler words, it's a kind of a richer, deeper life. People know we are living a model, a kind of life that is superficial, that is shallow, that is unsustainable. Even when you think about economy, whatever, it has to come from something deeper. There is no way for us to keep patching an old model. If the car is too old, it doesn't matter how many times you fix that. Sometimes you have to throw the old model away and to start with something new there. That is the difficult point for human beings. Human beings don't like these deep changes. And I think this is even a kind of paradox, and I many times bring this in my courses. I say everyone discusses things about evolution, but people would like to evolve without changing. In practical terms is, how can I be a lot more evolved but continuing to be same kind of guy? I say that's impossible. It doesn't work like that. So how people can be attached even to problems, traumas. Sometimes the identity of someone is based on traumas, negative experiences the person had. It's so difficult for all of us to let those things go. And this thing that we were mentioning here at the beginning, exploration, I think is one of the best things in the human spirit, human nature. Let us explore. Let us see something new. Let us try something different. Not all of the people is neophilic. Not everybody likes the new, but a lot of people. Could be a VR experience, a virtual reality experience. By the way, we are starting to use virtual reality to help people to get out of the body. I forgot to tell you that. We are at the beginning of that. We already have a working system that simulates the person leaving the body, going to the outer space, returning. But anyway, this thing of exploring is something that I think we could explore more, use it more.
Right. And I'm looking forward to using Wagner's development in combined with some of the work that we're doing with, using vibrational patterns inspired on the vibrational state that Wagner and Nancy have been working on and others for a long time, and bring in all this other technology that that helps to either stimulate or monitor the mind in order to produce states of deep relaxation, of creativity and well-being, and we'll be doing a lot more of that, both at IAC. I'm sure I-ACT is working on that, and Neuma being the company I work with, Minori as well, and just a lot of cooperation, collaboration. That's the future.
Yeah, I was going to mention that both of us have been working for such a long time together. We had different initiatives, they overlap, like IAC and the I-ACT, the Institute for Applied Consciousness Technologies, and Neumascape. And we are trying to get exactly to the point you are mentioning, trying to convert as much as possible of this knowledge we have, that sometimes is more like academic, philosophical, into applications. Sometimes can be mentoring sessions, can be some devices like cymatics, helping people, that kind of vibrating bed, to help people to relax, to be more focused on themselves. But as we said, people cannot become dependent on the coach, the mentor. They cannot become dependent on the piece of technology, but at least these things can be a boost.
Right.
Can be, the first kick to start a movement, but people have to do their part. And I don't know if I'm being pessimistic here, but it seems people get lazier and lazier by the day. They want to achieve things, in little time or little effort. Yes, some things can be like that, but not everything. Everything that really matters in life comes with the discipline and time and some effort. It doesn't have to be something boring or unpleasant, but time and effort, discipline are unavoidable and not easy to substitute.
Right.
Now people want an app. Do you have an evolution app? You install, press the button, and you evolve. Okay, I want that.
And buy your way out into the next level.
It's interesting to study the physiological basis for laziness. Laziness is not always a bad thing. It has, or it had its role in the past, because laziness was a way of saving energy. We had little food, little calorie. We would spend, 1,000 calories to find 900, calories to eat. So there was really a point in avoiding burning too much of the calories. So we would be, if we didn't have anything else to do, in a kind of a lower metabolism state. But nowadays, I think we spend what? I don't have the numbers, but perhaps 10 calories to walk to the fridge, open the door. We get, a pint of ice cream with, 3,000 calories.
Order delivery,
Order delivery. So nowadays, I think even the concept of laziness, productivity, has to be, rechecked. For instance, nowadays, the idea of productivity is basically of effort, of time, and even a little of suffering. If you don't suffer enough in your work, it's because you are not being a good, employee. And now it has to be more about the creativity. How many new ideas, concepts you could, come with this year? We are about to end this year. It's a different thing.
And you come up with a different model of also motivation. Sometimes someone has potential, but they're just not motivated. And so there is a connection between what we're talking about here and a better understanding of motivation. So leadership a lot of times is about unleashing potential, right?
Or it should be.
Right, as it should be. And the technologies and techniques we're talking about are also about unleashing potential, because people can have a plan for their life. They can have things they can do to bring wonder, to bring joy, to help people, to bring inventions that will facilitate our life, to bring knowledge, awareness into the world. But maybe they're just not motivated at this moment. But there could be something that could unleash that motivation for them. Could be a new understanding, could be a life experience. There are all kinds of things that can produce a shift. And sometimes it's not a very pleasant experience that brings that shift. Often, probably more often than not, it's an unpleasant experience. However, we don't have to wait for that to happen. I think we can go and seek out inspiration. And as you can find inspiration in nature, in travel, if you can, have that experience within your reach, but also through things like energy work, out-of-body experiences, lucid dreams.
Better role models.
Better role models than you can
really
probably find around here. Yeah.
It's true. Nelson was mentioning something that is important to us that we bring many times in seminars, in courses, that is this idea of life plan. It's more than just life purpose as a general thing. Okay, we are all here to contribute with the society, because we have to be more specific with that. So we have some specific mentoring sessions and courses. I was giving one course about this in Mexico City 2 weeks ago. 1 week ago I was here in Los Angeles, exactly bringing this. How can we work with some analytical tools to have a better idea, much closer to reality, of our life mission? What is that we have to do in this life? So if we come back to that idea of being agents of evolution, but someone can be more perhaps dealing with the communication or innovation, someone with politics, someone else with restructuring of the society. So we all can do something. And I think it was yesterday, it was this morning, we were discussing that sometimes people see so many needs, so much need in the world, in so many different areas, and people feel, how could I say, impotent, without the means to do anything. So they don't do anything. But we have to start with small things. If we can help one animal, one plant, one person, one family, it is already part of the whole thing. Because we have so many cognitive distortions, bias. It's amazing how the human mind is complex. It's so good at some things, but has so many bugs. I don't know who developed this software because it's full of bugs.
Bad code.
Bad code. We get in this, infinite loop, dividing by zero, by the way.
Yes.
People crash, stop, stall, blue screen of that. We have to really debug our software. We have to get rid of many of these bugs. Some of them are very instinctive. Can you imagine eons and eons, hundreds of thousands of years in a particular role?
Conditioning,
and being nomads in the savannah, just walking around, gathering things. But now, it has been only 10,000 years since the agricultural revolution, when we really stopped to have a more, fixed community. It has been, 200 years of the Industrial Revolution?
Yeah.
And we still are facing the information revolution, so they kept coming faster and faster, and people have trouble adapting. How can we adapt? Our model of family, society, and friends is still pretty much the one of 10,000 years ago with the agricultural revolution. It cannot be anymore. We are living a different planet now, different conditions. So are we going to adapt fast enough? Let us see. We have to do our part. And I said before, I don't think we are going to find any deeper, more permanent solution to this without thinking in a multidimensional way. Our paradigm has to be different. And I think it was Einstein who said something like this: if you keep trying and trying many times the same way, trying to get different results, well, that's madness. That's been crazy. And many times we see this in politics, in economy, economics. We have to try different ways. We have to think out of the box.
And I think it was Buckminster Fuller who said that, the paradigm or the framework that led to the problem cannot be the same one that will lead to the solution.
Yep.
We have something new has to emerge, new and better. But that's all our collective work to figure that out. And we can look to the realm of consciousness for inspiration, but inspiration is only like the first 1%. The rest is perspiration, right? And we have to do the work, all together. And if we each do a small part, we can really make a difference.
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier during the break, that how the subject of consciousness comes and goes in trends. Where do you see this going this time around?
I'm not, to be honest, I don't know, except to say that it will probably continue that way, like a wave coming and going. And we just have to be attentive, take advantage of the surf when it's in our direction, and hunker down for the long term and not feel discouraged when it's not. That's really all I can say.
Yeah, because the figure of speech I used at the time with you here during the break was of tides. We have this tide of a lot of awareness, interest in consciousness, spirituality, and energy, and then the tide goes back again, and then it comes again. Every time it comes, people say it's a new era. They discovered this or that. No, these things have been with us for centuries. We can have a little machine now, we can have that function MRI here, vibrating bed there, but the essence is the same we have always known. But we know that there are the, how could I say, so many factors converging, and sometimes they diverge, but we have to see how to take advantage of that. But the thing is that some things cannot be postponed anymore.
Right.
Some things, really, just we cannot postpone anymore. Some
And we cannot
being
feel
reversible or not.
We cannot feel discouraged and succumb to apathy and mentally check out. That's the worst thing we could do. I understand why people feel just discouraged and they don't think anything can change, but that's the recipe for nothing to change. But we cannot give up. We're not here to come to give up. Go down fighting. I don't mean physically fighting, obviously, but I mean campaigning for change in a peaceful but not apathetic way.
Even when we think of politics, I think there is a big distortion, bias that is sustained by the system of trying to classify everything as being in a unidimensional line, is left or right. Politics is
Us and
about
them.
left, us and them. No, there are many dimensions to that. Can we think of someone not being left or right, but being up? Just to think of the plane, okay? So we have to think in different ways, because this conditions people to think in a very narrow way. We have to find a different way.
We have to find common cause so we can have coalitions and collaborations and find solutions instead of just classifying people and dividing them.
Yeah, and this induces a lot of problems. But we know, unfortunately, that usually humans only prioritize something when it is the last minute. if it is studying something, if it is taking care of our health, whatever, we keep postponing until there is a crisis. I just hope we don't come to a kind of economic crisis, social crisis, ecological crisis.
To me, it
a
seems
point-
we are already living one. And
Yeah, we
so
are the
now,
brink of it.
okay,
Yeah,
so hopefully we wake up in the 11th hour.
exactly. Sometimes people need a big slap on their faces to wake up, get them out of the lazy.
Is there anything else you would like to share with the all viewers today?
Well, we covered so many things here. Perhaps I would like just to cover one thing, is that sometimes when we talk about energy, outer state of consciousness, and out-of-body experiences, some people still think in the old ways, they think this is only for gifted people, special people. Oh, we have to be Neo, the one, to be able to have that. It is not. I can guarantee it is not. So I started having out-of-body experiences, as I said, when I was young, but I have seen, met, and trained so many people who didn't have out-of-body experiences before.
I'm one of them.
And started having them. I wasn't born with all this sensitivity to energy, to feel this and that. The first time I got a very good friend, a healer, a medium, working with energies with me, I didn't feel anything at all. It was zero. So, and I could, with some practice, some training, some level of discipline, with time increase my level of sensitivity. And I wrote a book about retrocognitions because it was the kind of experience I had never had before. And I thought, okay, let me become a specialist on this so then I can create my own experience. So different examples to show that in fact anyone can have it, can experience this kind of things. Certainly, we have just to keep in mind that people have different levels of talent. It's like if we asked ourselves, can everyone learn how to play a piano? Yes, 99.9% of people are able to learn how to play piano. But how good we are going to be is a different discussion.
Predisposition varies.
Exactly. So some people can develop very fast. Others will take a long time. Some people can be very technical, very mechanical. Others can be a lot more organic, inspired. So there are different styles there. It's the same thing with this whole field. Anyone can learn and can develop these kind of abilities. Some people, with 2-3 weeks, they start having their own out-of-body experiences. Some people might need 3 months, 3 years, I don't know. But the thing is, we humans, very specific primates, we are very pragmatic. We always think, even if we don't see that consciously, in terms of cost and benefit. So cost would be how much time and effort I need to invest on this. If people don't see the benefit, sometimes it's too much cost for little benefit. But when you see, you can really understand that we can make our health better, coexistence with other people, a much richer life in so many different ways. People see the benefit. And then they put themselves on that. And I use as an example, metaphorically, as we ask some people, well, would you like to learn a different language? People say, yes, but look, it's not the time, it's difficult, I have a block against this. And then the boss comes and say, look, I'm going to double your salary if you learn French, German. I can bet the person is going to learn really fast another language. Because now there is incentive. The person can see the benefit for that particular cost. So many times people don't really apply themselves, don't dedicate too much time to this whole field because they really do not understand so much the benefits of that. But it's having a much, much deeper, interesting life. I cannot imagine a reality, my life, if it were just the physical things. It would be so boring.
Yeah.
So boring.
Yes.
Shallow. A little bit more than just what animals do.
It just feels closed off.
Exactly. It's no perspectives. It's being inside of a room without a window, Yes, you survive, but what kind of life is that one?
Nelson, do you want to add to that?
I think that was perfect, but I guess along the lines of motivation and how it might be hard for people to try, a lot of what we're doing now is just developing techniques and technologies to get people to get a taste. And like Wagner said before, it's not a lot of what we're doing now is training more people to have these experiences, and those would be the ones that are already motivated. And for the ones that don't quite see it yet, bring the information to where they are in their moment in life, and create some experiences where they can get a taste for what's possible. And once they get that taste, then hopefully they'll be motivated to go deeper. And that's really, one of the things that I'm hoping to do in the future.
Thank you so much, Wagner and Nelson.
You are very welcome. It's
Thank
a pleasure
you.
being here.
It was an enriching conversation. I think it has opened up like a window of possibilities.
And I would like to congratulate you for this initiative, because I really think this kind of opportunity, this channel, is really important, because there are so many people still needing to have some kind of input, even if the person is going to disagree, but at least you brew, ferment something there. So congratulations, I wish you the best with this initiative.
I second that.
Thank you. And your experience with this subject, and also the approach that you have taken of scientifically, carefully looking through this experiments, I think that's very valuable.
Oh, yes.
It's a very hard road, but hopefully eventually it will pay back. And I wish you both all the very best.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And thank you for watching. If you find this video informative, please remember to comment and subscribe.